So the first thing you'll notice with this machine is that the carriage won't move. That is because up here with the line spacing indicator, it's in the carriage lock position. So this is to stop the carriage from moving about during transport. To free it, just simply move down to one of the line spacing positions. In this case, I've moved it to position 1, and now the carriage will move freely. So, in order to get started with our typewriter, let's feed some paper in. Always recommend at least 2 sheets of paper, so your top sheet of paper that you'll be typing on and a backing sheet underneath. This helps to protect the platen when you are typing. So we need to feed the paper, hold it gently at the rear of the machine, making sure there's full contact with the length of the platen, and rotate the paper around. If you find that when you're rotating the platen, which is the name for the roller here, the paper does not feed, check that the little lever here, which is the paper release lever, isn't disengaged, because if you do, you may find that the paper won't feed. So make sure this is towards you, and then the paper will feed. So this is called the paper bell, and the paper bell indicates where each space on the paper will appear. So this is an elite machine, meaning it types 12 characters to the inch, and on an A4 sheet of paper here there are 100 spaces across the width of the page, and each of these lines indicates a space on the page when you are typing. So in order to start typing with the machine, we can return the carriage. Now we need to set our margin to where we want it. So the margin to be set at the left and the right hand side of the paper where you want your lines to begin and end accordingly. And this is set by these 2 sliding levers at the back of the machine. So let's say I would like our margin to be starting here on the left at 20 and end here at the right on 80. Then I just match up the corresponding indicator on the back. So let's move this left one to 20 and the right one to 80. And our margins are now set. So when I bring the return, we're at 20 to start typing. So on the keyboard here, we have, aside from the standard QWERTY layout, the key where you think the 1 key should be is actually the margin release. And what the margin release does is, according to where we've set those margins, it allows us to type over them. So if we were starting our line here, but we actually wanted to type a note before there, to go back past the set margin. And as soon as we go back to a normal position, when we return the carriage, it will stop at our set margin. This is the same when we get towards the end of our line here, 80, and the carriage stops moving. If we want to type a letter or 2 over the margin, press the margin release, and we can carry on typing over our margin. Again, once you move the carriage back to position, it's set to where the margins were originally fixed. So one of the first things you may notice about this machine, where's the number 1 key? Common with a lot of typewriters, and particularly on portables to save space, it was quite standard to strike the L key to indicate a number 1 on the typewriter. So a lowercase l is your number 1. So there we have all our numerals. So we've discussed the margin release key. This is the backspace key. So when we are typing, if we need to go back a space on the typewriter, it will move the carriage back 1 space at a time. Beneath this, we have the ribbon colour selector. So you have 3 positions on the typewriter. It's currently in the black position, which is the upper half of the ribbon. In the middle is what's called stencil position. This is not something likely to be used nowadays, but years ago, when copies were made for duplicating, stencil cutting required typing without the ribbon lifting on the paper. So if you have it in the stencil position and you are typing, the ribbon will not lift and it will not print. That is correct. And the third position, as you can see indicated by the red here, if we move up, and this will lift the ribbon to the lower half of the ribbon, so it will type in red. So moving back to black. Tab is our tabulator. Most of these machines have a fixed tabulator, and that is at every 10 spaces on the page. And what the tabulator enables you to do is to skip forward to a fixed part of the page in 10 spaces at a time. So here we are at 20 to 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. You would use the tab when you are typing columns and you want an even distance between them. So if we were to type 1, tab, 2, tab, 3, tab, 4, tab, 5, tab, 6, tab, 7. So you can see we have even spacing between. That's not to say that you are fixed just to these set positions. For instance, if I wanted to tabulate to 65, between the 60 and 70 here, what I would do, I would tab, 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 tab the 60 position and type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And therefore I would be at 65, where I could type in the character I wanted. Same again, if I wanted 45, I would tab to 40, 5 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can type my character in. So although the tabulator mechanism isn't able to be set for every space as it would be on some higher end typewriters, the fixed tabulator does still serve the same purpose. So moving down to the lower row of keys, we have a left shift key and a right shift key. As you would expect, this shifts the entire carriage up so that a capital letter can be struck. Releasing the shift lowers the carriage, and therefore it will strike a lowercase letter. This key here is shift lock, much like caps lock on a computer. This will lock the typewriter in capitals. To release the shift lock, you can press either shift key and it will release. So if the shift is locked, left shift will release or right shift will release. Coming back up to our carriage here, we have our line spacing, and by line spacing, that means the distance between each line, as I will demonstrate. So the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So this is single line spacing, which means we have one line space between them. If we wish for 1.5 line spacing, you will now see the distance between them has moved. And we now have 1.5 line spacing. Similarly, if we move down to double line spacing, we now have 2 lines between each line on the paper. Moving to the 0 position will provide a free amount of paper movement. So the symbols on the typewriter are obvious. Some of the things you may wish to know. When typing on a typewriter, you need a staccato touch. So that means you need to strike the key with the tip of your finger and release it as quickly as you can. This will give you a clean and clear impression. If you hold the keys down, this can happen. So if you type on a computer and you are used to holding the keys down, you are more likely to get shadowing and misprints if you type like that. So remember, you need short, sharp strokes, nice and crisp. Imagine that the keys are red hot and you are striking them and releasing them as quickly as possible. The underscore on number 6 is what we use to underline on a typewriter. So you type your word, you then backspace, and because it's a shifted character we need to hold the shift, so in this case we can shift lock to save us holding it down, and we strike the underscore for each letter of the word. That is how we underline on the typewriter. Something else you may wish to know how to do, not many videos mention, but if you wish to bold a word or letter on the typewriter, so bold, we can go backspace and retype the word again. The darker you wish the letters to be, the more you repeat this, and the darker the word will become. Again, this can be combined with the underlining to both bold and bold underline on the typewriter. When you have finished typing, in order to remove the paper from the platen, the paper release lever here needs to be pushed to the rear of the typewriter. This will enable the paper to come free from the machine. Do not yank the paper out of the machine so that you hear the ratchet sound. This creates unnecessary wear on the machine. In order to move the carriage back, we use the carriage release lever here, and grasping the platen knob whilst pressing the release lever will enable the carriage to move freely. When you release, it will stop. Before storing the typewriter, you need to move the line space lever to the rear lock position to ensure that your carriage will not move in transportation. To reinstall the lid of the machine, start with the case at the rear of the machine and hook it over the rear base of the typewriter. When you feel it is in the correct position, gently lower down until the front latches click, and that is your typewriter stowed, ready for its next use. I hope this video has been of help to you, and I wish you every enjoyment with your Silvereed typewriter.